What's going on, guys? I'm Icy Rhythms. Welcome back to another video. And in this one, we are discussing once again Sony confirming the PlayStation 5 as well as the reveal of the PlayStation 5 itself. I wasn't blown away by their games lineup, but the new Ratchet and Clank, the Kena Bridge of Spirits, and one or two other games really looked like fun and only possible on PC as well as next generation consoles. A lot of what Sony had for us was either a timed exclusive, a console exclusive, but the PlayStation brand as a whole continues its dedication to exclusive games. With 8 cores and 16 threads on the CPU, a GPU that rivals the 2070 that a lot of PC gamers aren't running in their CSGO, Dota, and Fortnite rigs, and a ridiculously fast SSD, Sony has placed themselves in great position with their exclusive games. The games that impressed me most during the PlayStation 5 reveal were mostly made up of multi-platform games. Resident Evil 8 and Ghostwire Tokyo look like the best bet for me. I'm not sure if both of these games are next generation only or cross-generation games. I think Ghostwire Tokyo might be a cross-generation game, whereas with Resident Evil 8, it recently came out that they've dropped development of current generation consoles, so that's a good thing. If they're just completely focusing on PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X with Resident Evil 8, I feel like it can be a much better game, and the ambition that they have for the game can be fully realized. But to me, both of those games look insane. It's not that Ghostwire Tokyo has, an amazing amount of detail, but the art style in that game with Shinji Mikami behind it, you've almost already sold me on the game. I do need to see a little bit more. It wasn't quite what I was expecting when they originally announced that game, but I'm still very interested. And with Capcom and Resident Evil 8, they continue to improve the RE engine, and it just looks incredible. This may surprise some of you, but one of the PlayStation exclusives that grabbed my attention most was the Sackboy game. Again, another game that I'm sure can be done on current generation hardware to some extent, but it looked like a really fun game. You had a lot of people making comparisons to, some of the latest Mario games and such. Hey, even if some of that's true, it still looked like it could be a fun game. Not necessarily something I would pay full price for, but definitely picking it up at half price or maybe even a little bit less than that. Something that you would just, play for an hour or two at a time until it's completed. I really hope this can be Sackboy's, sort of breakout game, not named Little Big Planet, and they'll continue making more games like this one as opposed to the Little Big Planet games, the whole play, create, share thing. I don't know, for me, with, so many games that have done it now, I'm just kind of like, I'm over it. I know people still really enjoy games like that, but I would prefer they take that character and make more games like this. Let's get to what I think many consider to be the two big elephants in the room. I want to get this out of the way because I think it's the less important of the two, and really it just comes down to personal taste. I do not like how the PlayStation 5 looks. I was not feeling that. The color scheme was not feeling that. For the most part, it looks, if I was being nice, I could say it looks decent, and white and blue isn't terrible. It's not the most terrible thing I've ever seen, and certainly not the ugliest console I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that once it's in my home and I've had it for a while that it won't grow on me. I'm not saying that. I just think it looks a little ridiculous, and I wish Sony would have went for a more simplistic design. I feel like part of the reason it looks the way it does is because of the cooling that's needed in the PlayStation 5, and that's fine. I think for me, the Xbox Series X, the upcoming Xbox Series X, obviously, and the Xbox Series S that's currently out now are two of my favorite designs ever because of how simple they are. Even though I don't own and won't own either of those consoles, I do like them. They're very simple. Stuff like that is definitely more up my alley. The last PlayStation design that I really liked a lot was the original PS3 Slim, which I believe released in 2009. To me, absolute perfection from that thing. Hell, I didn't even mind the Fat Boy PS3, to be honest with you. I think both of those look a lot better than this. Not taking anything away from the PlayStation 5's games or its capabilities, because it seems like a very capable console, but that design is not on point for me. The next and final thing I want to talk about is probably something half of you watching find very important and the other half are just fine keeping things the way they are. I'm, of course, talking about 30 FPS games, and in particular, the exclusives. What Sony, as well as Microsoft, should do is give the consumer more options than they already do with the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, and allow people to adjust settings to a point where if they want to play at 60 FPS, they're going to be able to do that. There isn't a reason, at least in my opinion, why this can't be done and shouldn't be done. Maybe if Sony and Microsoft, but I really feel like Sony especially, because I think the PlayStation 5 is going to sell better. Maybe if they were to mandate to third parties, hey, you must give a ridiculous amount of options for console players to tweak. So if they want to play at 60 FPS, they can, or, just an overall higher visual fidelity, the desired performance for that, they'll be able to do that if they so choose. I feel the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are good enough. They are capable enough where something like that is entirely possible if developers really wanted to push the issue. With all of that being said, if Sony and Microsoft decide they don't really want to do any of that, the PlayStation 5 will be just fine, and as I mentioned in my last video, in a great position to stay in first place for the entirety of next generation. Those that don't care about frame rates, just overall performance in general, or any of that stuff, have been playing and enjoying exclusives from Sony that drop well under 30 FPS under heavy loads for quite some time. So this isn't anything new to them, and this isn't going to be a big deal for them. If Sony came out tomorrow and said every single game will be 30 FPS, including third-party titles, the PlayStation 5 is still going to sell, and it's going to sell extremely well. So that is my opinion. That's my take, but I'm sticking to that. I am sticking to those guns. I fully believe that. That's not going to happen, but if it did, I'm sticking to that. I like what their competition is doing. I do. Microsoft is doing a lot, but I wonder, outside of us internet nerds that read up on and understand some of the technical jargon, is there really a big market in console gaming for high refresh rates? I'm not saying that absolutely none of you care, because some of you have made it clear that you do care about 60 FPS or higher. Some of you are playing on, TVs that accept that. You're playing on, obviously, monitors that can do 60 and beyond. So some of you have made it clear that you do care, but is there a big market there? And since there's probably not, it's probably not going to be something that Sony and Microsoft push in a very big way. I know Microsoft is doing a lot of that right now, but as the generation continues with these next consoles, I don't know if they're still going to be talking about, high refresh rates and backwards compatibility and all of this different stuff, 3-4 years into the generation. In fact, we'll probably be hearing about, mid-gen refresh consoles that are more powerful than the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. And, hey, maybe then they'll start talking about it again. Who knows? Who can really say? Time will tell, and I don't think Sony is too worried about it. 30 FPS, very cinematic story games is what Sony continues to do, and they had a decent handful this generation that sold around 10 to 15% of the install base, which I'm sure made for a great return, even if Sony is leaving money on the table. A lot of this makes me wonder, once Horizon Zero Dawn and games like Death Stranding drop for PC and become the vastly superior versions of those games, I wonder if diehard PlayStation fans will demand that Sony give them something similar for the PlayStation 4 enhanced titles, as well as the upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusives. All we can do at this point is wait. We will see. And that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed making it, and there will be more videos on these topics. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about in the upcoming, month or two. So there's going to be tons of news. We're probably going to get prices soon, even though some are claiming those have more or less already leaked out. But if Microsoft comes out next month for their July event and says, hey, $400, Sony's hand might be forced to match that, or even go a little under that, maybe 350, 375. Unlikely. That seems like a dream, but I don't think one can be a penny more than the other. I think that's what it's going to come down to. And if Microsoft wants a chance, which I don't think they have much of, even with a really good price, they're going to have to do something really awesome with that price, as well as their games. They're going to have to bring the games, but we'll discuss some of that in another video. You guys take care. Thank you again. If you really enjoyed this video, give me a like, a share. Shares help more than you wouldn't believe, whether it's on Reddit or, Twitter, what have you. And if you really, 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 really liked it, throw me a subscription. That would be great as well. If you didn't like it, hey, throw me that dislike or give me some constructive criticism in the chat. I appreciate it. You guys take care. Peace.